Welcome to CellX, the Harvard X course on cell biology. My name is Robert Liu, and in addition to serving as a professor at Harvard, I am also the faculty director of Harvard X. When you think about biology, you often think about that moment in time when you first discovered that you loved living things. And I still remember growing up as a child, I loved animals. I had many different kinds of pets, birds, fish, dogs, etc. But what really changed my view of life was the first time I saw cells in a microscope. I still remember in high school, I was doing that classical onion root tip preparation, where you slice off the tip of an onion, you press it on a slide, and you look at it in a microscope. And that was when I first saw these fantastic little units that I then learned were cells. I thought they were amazing, I thought they were exciting, but it wasn't until I went to college and I saw a cell moving, crawling across a glass slide, that I realized that is the level of life that I'm most interested in. So for me, that was what led me to be a cell biologist, and that really what led to a lifetime love affair with the cell. So in order for us to really understand the universal features of life, we really need to understand what constitutes that minimal unit that can really be considered to be alive. All organisms, from single-celled algae to complex multicellular organisms like humans, like you and I, are all made up of cells. Every organism is either a single cell or a really complex ensemble of many cells. One of the things that defines this course is trying to understand the how and the why of cell biology. And the cell itself is a wonderful case for us to study, and a case that will help us understand and explore what you could think of as the functional logic of living systems. The real purpose of this course is for you to build a deep intuition for how cells work. How do things work inside a cell? And why do the work of individual cells and many cells help us understand ourselves as living organisms? So let's go back in time for just a moment. What we're looking at here is a microscopic image created in the 17th century by the natural philosopher and polymath Robert Hooke. Hooke believed at the time that this image showed cells. This is a sample of cork tissue, and what he was really observing were the remains of cell walls from the dead cells of cork tissue. This image really was the beginning of an understanding that the smallest, most fundamental living units are indeed compartmentalized cells. And as complex multicellular organisms, it's very important that we understand what the fundamental unit actually looks like. So clearly, even though he wasn't looking at living cells, Hooke was on the right track. It is also worth noting the vast diversity of cell shapes and sizes. A bacterium, for instance, is a single-celled organism that is about 1 micrometer long. Many of our human cells, in contrast, are about 10 to 100 micrometers wide. One of the larger cells is an egg, while one of the smallest human cells is a sperm. An ostrich egg is in fact a single cell, even though it is so large that it requires 2 hands to hold it. Cells can also come in specialized shapes. Bacterial cells tend to be elongated, while human red blood cells tend to look like these ovular discs. And some of our neurons have projections that can extend up to 1 meter in length. While there are a multitude of cell shapes and sizes, they are all organized in roughly similar ways. We tend to think of cells as bags of liquid with proteins floating around in them, although many are in fact highly organized and indeed compartmentalized. Roughly 70% of a cell is water, but as you can see here, it is also a densely packed environment. In this ink drawing, you can see a nucleus, its double envelope, the endoplasmic reticulum, and many, many vesicles. This is a secretory cell, and like many other cell types, it contains specialized functional areas and discrete components that work in concert. What we're going to do in this course is really help you understand that all of those components must work together. Cells possess all 3 classically defined hallmarks of life. Each cell must be able to reproduce by storing and transmitting genetic information. Each cell must be able to regulate its internal environment as it adapts over time in response to its external environment, and each cell must be able to harness energy from the environment to do work. A cell satisfies each of these three requirements, and therefore each cell is itself a living entity. Francois Jacob, a Nobel Prize-winning biologist, made a wonderful point when he said, "With the discovery of the cell, biologists found their atom." So the cell sits at the perfect intersection between molecular and physical processes. Cells allow us to bridge the physical sciences and the life sciences and drive our understanding of behavior. The behavior of complex ensembles of macromolecules and behavior of biological processes that we can see with the naked eye or experience in our physical bodies. If you compare a cell with something truly vast and on a very different scale, like a galaxy, you will see that as different as those two might seem one from the other, they both clearly obey the laws of physics. So both cells and a galaxy contain clearly definable molecular components, each of which you can study, explore, and understand. Much of this course will be an investigation of the function of these components. But one major difference, however, is that unlike a galaxy, cells have a particular mission. And as you're seeing here, that mission is to reproduce. We're looking at a time-lapse video of a cell that is preparing for and then undergoing cell division. We can see that the cell is simply a remarkable structure. Join us as we explore the extraordinary and dynamic world of the cell.